Let you guys see these. Got my mother-in-law to make these to give out to all the weekly winners.
That's cool.
Mask.
Very cool. Does it have the hat that goes with it? You know, in my entire adult life, this is the longest I've gone without seeing you guys.
Crazy, right?
Go. We're on live, guys. That's okay. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Let me make sure I move all these things out of my way. Take 6 is live right now. And what we'd like to start out by doing is literally just letting you guys know who we are, what's going on. This whole thing is in lieu of our weekly Take 6 Spread Love 2020 challenge. We felt with everything that's going on, we kind of needed to come on and do something a little different. So we're glad that you guys are joining us. And because we are the Spread Love guys, you know, everybody knows us as a group. They know what it is we do, but I'm not sure that people really know who we are individually, especially now that for the most part, we're all in our 50s and we are Black men who have kids, who are grandfathers, who are sons, and all manner of things that relate to our ethnicity. So I'm going to start out as the elder statesman of the group and just kind of give you guys a little bit of an idea who I am. I'm Claude. I'm 57 years old. I started this outfit way back in the day, but let me give you a story about what it is I have come to know and have seen. 2 stories, actually. Just the other day, I was speaking with my daughter. I have 2 daughters. One is 32 years old. The younger one is 20. And my older daughter, Jessica, was telling me how her grandfather, who is in his 80s, literally right now has PTSD from what it is he's seeing. Why? Well, because he's gone through this before. He's seen this. This is what has been going on in his life for most of his adult life. You know, and that really hit home with me that we've been feeling this way for many, many, many years. Those of us who are older, those of us who are older than us, our sons, you know, that kind of thing. Now, and my own personal story, years ago, as I'm living in Nashville, I go down to Miami to buy a car. When I get down to Miami, I get the car, I exchange the money, do everything I need to do, and I'm heading back to Nashville on the highway, and lo and behold, I get stopped. Guess what happens? They literally tear my car apart to look for what they say had to have been drugs because I'm driving this high-profile vehicle. I'm this bald-headed, 6'2" Black man in this car.
What else could you possibly be doing?
Absolutely. They literally had me stand on the side of the road on the highway in 100-degree heat while they go through my brand new car, tearing everything up out of it, from the seats to where the convertible top is and everything. Do I think those are racist cops? I don't know. You tell me. Do I think I was profiled? Absolutely. Is that something that every time I'm in a car, I wonder or think about? Absolutely. Is that something that other people may not have to think about every day? I would think yes. You know, this is something I personally think about every time I'm in a car. I carry a little pouch that contains my license. Sometimes I put it under my seat, but I can tell you that many a time I leave it either right on the seat beside me, and I go through these scenarios in my head that if I get stopped and I have to reach for something, what hand to reach for it with, what to tell them before I do so. These are things that we are conditioned to think about because of the things that we're seeing all of these times. So I just wanted to share those things and let my next brother, let me say, David Thomas, would you like to share?
I would, man. And first of all, I'm really glad that we're doing this because, you know, when I ask myself how I'm feeling about all of this, I have to admit that it's a combination. On one hand, I'm exhausted. for the same reasons as I guess your daughter's grandfather is basically experiencing PTSD, because I mean, we've seen these images over and over throughout our lifetime. And at least up until this last scenario where Derek Chauvin, the ex Minneapolis police officer, we've seen the scene over and over where he's kneeling down on George Floyd's neck, and to hear a black man literally, after a while, he was saying, "I can't breathe." He started calling out for his mother. He started even confessing and apologizing and making sure that as he knows that he's going out, I don't want to leave anything unsaid, you know, securing his entrance into heaven, so to speak. The most disgusting things that we've ever seen. After seeing those images over and over, and actually noticing people from the side literally calling out, saying, "You're killing him." And to see multiple officers kneeling on him, and the main officer, Derek Chauvin, like I said, kneeling on his neck for almost 8 minutes. It had me mentally exhausted. I was almost in a state of depression. And you know, you brought up the police, just saying, "Claude, did you experience were those racist cops?" I do. I mean, we have to start saying that. Look how far it had to go before we start to see things start to turn around. And right when I was about to go into despair, I was in a prayer session having my personal worship. A thought just came to my mind. God just put this on my heart. Notice how the pandemic puts everybody out of work. And so when I went yesterday to the protest, and I'm looking around, I got my sign, I'm getting people to honk as they go by. And I'm looking around, I see every race, every demographic represented there, young, old. And I start to say, man, I was thinking about the pandemic, and then this, you know, right on top of it, just stress after stress after stress. Then I realized if it wasn't for the pandemic, a lot of these people couldn't actually be at the protests. These people aren't at work. The kids aren't at school. And finally, we have the level of engagement in not just the African-American community, but in the entire community, saying this isn't right. And, you know, it got me thinking that, you know, maybe there's a ray of hope here that hasn't been seen in any of the other incidences going back hundreds of years, from the beginning of the country to now. After segregation, the code became rule of law, or restore order, or as we hear the president say, "Make America great again." Those of us in the African-American community, we all know exactly what that means. Or war on crime. We know exactly what that means. And finally, we're starting to see other people stop trying to justify, stop trying to defend themselves, and start to listen to us as African Americans and saying that they stand with us in solidarity. So I got a ray of hope.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. And that's what we were trying to do, just get people to listen.
Exactly.
Mark, you want to share something, my brother? Mark Hibble?
Well, I'll say this. I grew up, I'm almost as old as you, Claude, almost, not quite, but I'm just about there. I'm 56. And my dad lived in Boston for a time when I was very, very young, but he lived there during, let's see, 1967, 1969, when all the racial riots were going on then. And he took me out there to one of the, what would be now known as, you know, just a gathering where people were talking about it, speaking out about it. And it got violent then, and he had to take me home, but I witnessed it then. I had pictures of Angela Davis then in my bedroom, and my dad made it very clear to me, "You are Black." He had a "Black is Beautiful" poster up in my room, so that I was very aware at ages 2, 3, and 4 who I was and what I was. We actually lived in a neighborhood that was predominantly white back then, and they did not want to let us in. So I experienced my own first racial differences with the kids on the block, fights with the kids on the block right there in a suburb of Boston back then, going to a school where I was the only Black child in the school. And so, you know, being looked at strangely from the very beginning, and realizing that this is who I am, and this is what we've been dealing with all our entire lives. Times where we are not comfortable going into restaurants, when we look at cross-eyed on the side of the road. And, you know, I'm just seeing history repeat itself over and over again. So just like you said, Dave, to see all of this happen, and now you get to see something like from the second it begins to the second that it ends, the struggle. And there's no question about what's going on. Some of these other videos you've seen, yeah, you've seen it actually happened right before your very eyes. That you couldn't see back then. Now you see it directly right now. And you talk about post-traumatic syndrome. Yeah, it is happening for me too. It hits me like a ton of bricks with all the rest of the stresses that are going on right now. And let me just share one other thing very quickly. Several years back, my son had a Mexican friend whose parents were white. They lived in a white neighborhood. They're just walking through the neighborhood, the two of them. Cops pulled them over. They're 9 and 10 years old. They're just walking down the street. They pulled them over to say, "What are you doing in this neighborhood?" And we literally went down to that particular police station and talked to them about that very thing, that how out of line are you that when a child actually lives in this neighborhood and they can't walk down the street without being questioned? That's just absolutely insane. So it's right in our face. It has not changed. And like you said, Dave, I'm hopeful that maybe this time, where I'm seeing a lot more people take notice to it, that maybe something different will happen.
Right before you jump to the next guy, Claude, I just forgot to mention this, that when I first moved to LA, my first experience, the second day I was here, I went to pick up Marla from her brother's apartment. And this is, I guess, in 94, maybe. I pull up on the curb next to the apartment building. Cop drives by. He goes about a block and a half, throws his car in reverse, comes all the way back, whoop, whoop, tells me to get out the car, and slams me on the roof of my own car, on the hood. Put me in handcuffs, told me that they're going to go in my car, get the wallet. They searched the car, and then they said, "What are you doing here?" And I literally remember thinking to myself, "Are you serious?" I have to explain that I'm sitting, not even driving, not out the car, not anything. He just happened to drive by, look in the window, and see that I was Black. So from that point on, you know, it was really difficult to just not develop a hate the police kind of attitude, because it's just unjust.
That's your own PTSD. Absolutely.
Exactly.
You know, before we go on to the other three guys, I think it's really important to let everyone know. I see a lot of comments coming in there. We'll get to some of that if we can. I think it's very important that we share and that you guys know who we are. And we're not just giving all the bad that has happened. We've got to give some of that to give you an idea. But this is really going to be about not only what can we do about finding solutions, but maybe even fielding questions from you all about things that you see, things that you think might be able to have happen. But right now, before, like I said, the three guys come on, we have a moderator on who I would like to start. She has some amazing questions for us, and I want her to do that. And then I want the other three guys to share their stories. Her name is Kenan Cooley, and she's been in the background listening to this conversation. So Kenan, if you can jump on now where we are. And
I am.
There we go. Hello.
Hey. Yeah, I've been listening, and it's heart-wrenching and amazing. And you know, the funny thing you guys kept saying was PTSD, and I kept thinking, no, that's not. PTSD means post, like after something's done. That's life. This is lifelong PTSD or lifelong Black TSD, because you guys are living it from the time you wake up in this world until at this point till you leave. So, I mean, it was remarkable just even the first three guys to hear that repeated sound of this is what we do every day, every day. But yeah, so did you want to continue with the other three, or did you want to start asking questions?
No, I want you to start with your moderation and your questions and stuff, and then we'll go to probably Alvin, Joey, and then Christian, who's the youngest member.
Save the baby for last. Yeah, so you guys hit on a lot of the things. So first of all, I would just like to say thank you for allowing me to be part of this conversation. I think it's very, very important. And I'm also proud to be a part of it as a Black woman and the Black woman of two boys. It's very hard for me as a woman, a single mom, to hear the pain that you guys have given me, because this has been really hard for me this whole week. But to hear the pain you guys go through as Black men, I mean, Black people go through a lot, but there's an extra measure that Black men go through. I remember my brother saying to me, he didn't think he would make 30. 30, because of the psychology that's in your mind as a Black man. You don't know if you're going down the streets by a cop or you're going down the streets from the area. We lived in DC at the time. You just have too much pressure, and it's just amazing to me. So one of the things that I thought of, I wanted to ask you all, and I'm going to get to some of the questions that the people are asking as well, but people who know you have been across the world. You have 10 Grammys to your name. You've been doing this business almost 35 years. You guys have done amazing things. You spoke before, sung before presidents, dignitaries, anything, name it. Any performer, you probably performed with them. But then you come home and you drive down to LA, or you drive in Nashville or wherever you're from, and you just become a Black man. How does that make you feel?
Even before we get home, Kenan, there are times where we're walking through the airport, we're 6 Black guys together. What are you guys, basketball players? Are you rappers? And it's like, man, really?
Let me tell you,
just become desensitized to it.
Yeah,
that's horrible. That's horrible that you have to become desensitized, though.
Let me tell you one of the craziest things that's happened, because if we think that this is just an American problem, we're very, very sorely mistaken. We were on an airplane. I want to say we were in Norway, and we're sitting in first class, and I'm literally sitting there as people are coming on, and a mother comes on with her child, and the child is like screaming and blah, 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 blah. She looks at me and says, "It's okay. She's never seen one before."
No.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Verbatim. I was sitting right next to you.
Yes. She's never seen one before.
And can I ask you, Claude, when you hear those words, what do you think? I know what you're thinking, but what do you think personally as a Black man? What do you say in response to that? What happened?
I'm going to answer the second part of that first. And Christian knows this. We were so dumbfounded, we had no clue what to say. There was nothing to say to that. She's never seen one before. That was the first part.
Dehumanized you.
Yeah. And she thought that was okay to say. That's the part that really gets to me.
You guys, you're not even telling the story from back in the original day. We were years ago, we were at the Globe Theater.
Oh,
and in front of probably 15,000 people in the circular theater, they had bringing our opening act. We were there with BB and CC, and all of these people were there in this auditorium, and they had
10,000 seat auditorium.
What's that again?
10,000 seat auditorium.
Yeah, a woman in a Swedish lady in blackface with a pillow in her behind, with a big bosom, all of this stuff, doing. Again, it was one of those shocking moments. We didn't even know what to say. It was just so absolutely out of bounds and inappropriate and offensive that we just looked at each other. We're like, are we really seeing this? Fast forward, the woman had no idea when we talked to her later that was even offensive. She was hurt that she hurt us.
She was crying, but it was a teaching moment from us being able to sit her down and telling her what that meant. Right. But the thing I think you're really saying, Vin, and that people don't quite understand is that kind of behavior happens all the time.
All the time.
Almost, and sometimes from well-meaning people who have no clue what it is they're doing. But it keeps perpetuating.
Yeah.
And and going on.
Shout out to Merv on that, though, remember, because it was Merv who basically said, we're not going to perform until she apologizes.
Right.
Well,
I remember I had a problem with that too.
The biggest thing
Exactly.
that's going on here is this, though, that across they're ignorant of what it is that they're doing, what it
That's
is
what
that
I'm
they're
saying.
saying.
Ignorance is
They
at the
have
root of
no
all of it.
idea, even now, that we go through what we're going through.
Right.
So it's so important that maybe this finally is something that everybody can actually see, where
Right.
maybe you thought that Kaepernick was kneeling for no reason at all. Now you know that this is for real. This is exactly what's going on. You see it firsthand for
The
yourself.
nation
This is
finally
exactly
got to
what
witness an actual
Yes.
murder.
An actual murder. So,
Mark, but
But
me
no,
ask
the
this
nation has witnessed police murdering Black men for centuries.
But they've always been able to explain it away, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but it had to get to this level where he
Right.
was he didn't just murder him. He was dead long before, he didn't even let go after the guy was dead.
Yeah, just a
You saw the
heartless,
video where,
cruel.
where the other cop was checking his pulse. This body was lifeless. He still didn't get up.
Yeah, it's the first time we've actually been able to witness the
Mhm.
life leaving someone's body.
Yeah.
That was like
Without
that.
a struggle, just
Without-
taking his life.
Yeah.
And no reaction from Chauvin. Just sit there plain face, hands in his pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And Mark, can I ask a question in regards to what you were just saying? But because you said that they're ignorant.
Yeah.
But many people will say ignorance is not enough. You can get a Harvard degree, but somehow you're ignorant to the feelings of other human beings being treated less than human. So, and all of us, I'm sure, have white friends who sometimes just don't get the depth of our pain. And I wanted to know, what do you say to your white friends? What do you say to people you know love you, but still just don't get it?
yeah, I was dumbfounded as to what to say, because until you actually witness it, or until you picture your child or a member of your family going through something like that, it's not real to you. You see other people get hurt, and what they're saying is, oh, well, he must have deserved it. Well, bottom line is, now you know that it happens and they don't. But still, when somebody's crying out for their mother and you got your knee on somebody, you don't hear, you can't see that could be your son or your father or somebody related to you, your daughter. If they look like you, then you have a tendency to maybe relate. Oh, I can share with you something that happens right here in my own neighborhood with my own next door neighbor. And until they see themselves, they still will not understand what this is all about. And how do you convince them of that? Hey, I don't know. I really don't.
Mark, that's a really good point, because all of us, now let's go outside of exactly why we're here as Black men or whatever. It is very hard, human nature, to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. And I think that this, for whatever reason, is really showing people the humanity and the lack of humanity. So we don't want his death to be in vain by any means, but this is really getting people's attention. I marched here in LA this past Saturday, and until it ended up devolving into a little bit of violence and everything, it was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And so there's plenty of that. So I think we have to keep on looking at the good, the positive, the things that we know are terrible, but that we can do and that we can share.
Agreed. And I would say that, when the announcement was given today about the extra charges, the additional charges, I don't know if you guys heard the additional charges that were put on. Yeah. So, but
they upgraded the original charge on Derek Chauvin from 3rd-degree murder to 2nd-degree murder. Right. And they charged the other 3 officers with accessory to murder.
Right. But in that conversation, or in that announcement, the Attorney General obviously felt like he was doing the right thing, but he also said we have to make changes, that there needs to be more than just these prosecutions here. And he also mentioned that entertainers and the like celebrities need to do their part. So what do you think is your part as a celebrity and as a Christian, perhaps, to do something to make this not just another march, not just another death, but a shift and a change.
I think
You
we
wanna
have to
speak to that,
tell our
Kristen?
stories. I'm sorry. I was going to say, I think you have to continue to tell your story from your perspective. It didn't hit white America or the majority of America that black is black until LeBron got his house vandalized here in LA in the ritziest of ritzy neighborhoods. And they pointed, they scrawled the black, N-word or whatever it is in his gate. LeBron has a story. He doesn't cease to be black because he has a lot of money. None of us cease to be black because we have extraordinary talents for singing. This is the third neighborhood I've lived in the last 4 years. I am so used to my neighbors not talking to me that I don't even look to them to be friends. I'm amazed that Mark actually has a relationship with his neighbor to be mad at him. I'm like, oh, they actually spoke to you. My neighbors never speak to me. Yeah, oh no. In fact, 2 weeks ago, I was out painting my fence. A buddy of mine painting my fence was out there, and the neighbor's landscaper came up to me asking me how much of the fence I was going to paint. I was like, I'm not sure. Let me ask you this way. How much did you get contracted to do? I'm like, oh, no.
Wow.
I'm the homeowner. Let's start again. My name is, and the reason I knew that's where he was going, because that happened to me 30 years ago in Nashville.
Wow.
The guy, they assumed that I was building a house. They couldn't conceive that a 22-year-old kid would be building his own house. So there's so much, but yeah, we are responsible to tell our stories from where we are.
Yes.
Don't assume that there is a finish line where you cease to be black or where everyone sees you as equal. When you're in first class, they assume you're there because you're an athlete. When you're in the neighborhood, they assume you're there to work for somebody, or they assume you're there to be up to no good. When you are traveling, they figure you're in the military, or you got money. They figure that you don't have any kind of cash receipts because you kind of came in. It's always assumed that there is a workaround or a hookup or some kind of dishonest way that you got where you are, and it is exhausting, So yeah, I think that's what we're responsible to do: tell our story.
And what we're doing today is part of that effort as well. So
yeah.
Okay.
Can I jump in, Kenan, for a moment?
Sure.
I know Joey's still on here, but I know that Joey, do you have to leave in about 15 minutes?
I'm good for right now.
Okay, because I wanted you to have an opportunity to
let's
speak.
get to the other guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to do that now, or because I don't want you to miss out if you do have to leave at some point?
I can.
Do you mind that, Kenan? Get Joey in.
No, fine. Please do that.
Okay.
Please go.
So I have three scenarios. The first is I grew up around Huntsville, Alabama and Tennessee for most of my life. As Mark said, my dad is a pastor. This particular day, he had to go and preach at one of the churches that are about 45 minutes away from Huntsville in Pulaski, Tennessee. And I had to go with him, obviously. I've always heard of civil rights stories. I've seen the black and white videos, I've heard about civil rights. That particular day, we were casually driving along, then we see a state trooper pull up behind us. They're not in a rush. They were driving. It got my attention because they were driving comfortably at the same pace that we were, but they didn't pass us. They didn't slow us down. Then another state trooper pulled up behind that one. And they're, obviously we're driving the speed limit and they're inching along behind us. And I just had this feeling that I should probably wake my dad up and, I don't know what's going on. He's like, just keep driving. As we got into Pulaski that particular day, we realized that there was going to be a Klan rally in the center of the city. So of course they had it blocked off. So we had to go around. That was the first time that I felt the thick, heavy atmosphere of hatred. It's almost like I remember it as everything was going in slow motion. We showed up at the church because the church was pretty much Black. Nobody showed up. There are like a couple of people that had the courage to even come to church, and he had to preach anyway. And we had to stay around. And upon leaving, I guess that's when all the festivities got started. That night, they burned a cross in somebody's yard that was near one of our, a couple of our church members. So they saw it. There was a lot of praying and having to carefully go back because we didn't know what was going to happen. It's like no sudden movements. That's the first time I actually felt it for myself. The second situation, when I was out in California, we were writing for our project. This is when maybe a year or so after I got into the group, so 1992 or 93, I went out to write with Ricky Lawson. He lived in Pomona. To come out there, the guys who didn't live out there had to rent cars. And so I rented my car. The car was a new car, so it didn't have tags on it. It had temporary tags. And I remember asking the company, are you sure that I will be okay with this not having tags? And I remember them saying, you're going to be fine. You know, if you get pulled over, just pull out the papers, just, you know, to show that it's a new rental, the tags are on the way. I'm like, okay, you know, but it was, whatever year it was around the time that the Rodney King situation was happening. So right about evening, I'm headed out to Pomona. I forget which freeway that is. But just after dark, sure enough, I got pulled over. Now, I have a handkerchief on my head, but it was neither red nor blue. In fact, it was brown and yellow. You know, you can't mistake any of that. You couldn't then. But I remember them, and I'm fresh out of Nashville. I'm not expecting that anything crazy is going to happen. I don't have anything to hide. But I remember as they pulled me out, I remember the fear that I had to feel on their behalf. So I'm trying to keep my hands where everything's, where everything is. Of course, they're flashing you to, get out the car. So I'm getting out the car. He had me sit on the side of the freeway. And then I look back and there are like 3 or 4 other cars behind his. And I'm sitting there thinking, are they out here for me? Like, what are they here for? So one officer is searching my car and he's, flipping everything out. He's searching my bag, everything, while another officer is talking to me. But what I remember was his tone and how he was talking to me. I don't mind answering the questions, but it's almost like when somebody's asking you the same question 3-4 times from different angles, it's like, that's the first time I felt like you don't trust anything I'm saying. And it's almost, I felt specifically like this dude he's pushing me. It's almost like he wants to get some kind of rise because nobody asked the same question this many times. And after you've answered it 3, 4, or 5 times, you begin to think there's something else that he's getting at. And I remember having a specific feeling as he was speaking to me, kind of in a taunting tone, while another person, I remember looking at the officer as he was meandering around the trunk and praying to God, please don't let this dude plant something in the trunk. Because I've already told them, they already see I don't have anything. But it's almost like there's another agenda because they keep pushing. He keeps taunting. And it's almost like they wanted something to happen. Now, I'd seen the Rodney King situation, but I'm so green behind the ears. I can't think that any of this is going to happen to me because I have nothing to hide. And I remember that specific feeling. Third situation was, and they finally let me go after a while of interrogating me right beside. And I remember the embarrassment of the traffic slowing down and everybody trying to look to see what, who is this, that whole mindset is a mindset that sticks with you for years. So when you talk about I'm subhuman, I'm less than a normal creature, that stuck with me for a while. Third situation. Much later, I brought my kid to learn how to swim. This is a survival, teach them how to swim. There are a lot of kids, a lot of parents. It was a simple little thing here in Nashville. They have unisex bathrooms because I have my daughter, so I can't bring her into the men's bathroom. So we're waiting in line to go into the unisex bathroom so that you can change your child, dry them off, and we can leave. And I remember when it was my turn to go in, just as I'm walking in, a Caucasian lady with a couple of kids kind of jumped there in front of me. Hey, do you mind if we can come in with you and I can get my kids changed and you can change your daughters, whatever? Can we share the bathroom? And it caught me completely off guard because nobody's ever asked me that. And I'm gonna tell you why. And I had to sit there like, no, you can't do that. My daughter is gonna be naked and I'm gonna be sitting here changing my naked kid in front of your two kids and you. And it's like, what I couldn't really get was, where's that sense of decency? Imagine if you had been going into the bathroom,
Lord,
a black man
roles reversed.
comes up and puts his foot in the door to keep the door from closing, asking you, hey, I would like to bring my child in while you're dressing your two children, your son and your daughter, and can we share the bathroom? Here's the mindset. With me, I'm sure that it was unthinkable that she could be of any harm to me because of just how easily it was a thought. Maybe she does that with her friends. Maybe that is the case. Unfortunately, in this situation, I have to be aware of the fear that you have for me as I walk around. I have to be aware as an African American what you might be thinking because I'm around minding my own business. So I have to be careful. I've walked up on people not even thinking about them or what they're doing, and they suddenly turn around, see me, and you see this fear of clutching your purse, clutching your jewels, clutching your pearls, and it's just like, wait a minute. If you had been the person telling me that I can't change I can't come in here, it would be a whole different situation. And it took me a while after I left, and I just got more and more angry. Like, how in the world can you not afford me that privacy that you think this is okay? You know good and well, if that would have been, I know the kind of fear that people have turned around and looking at me, and I'm harmless. I don't have any intention on doing anything to you, Joey, but I have to be aware of
what you just said was probably the most profound thing I've ever heard. Being a Black person forces you to constantly look at the world from their perspective and you as a potential threat. Absolutely. You don't get to enjoy life.
You diminish yourself enough that you're less threatened.
Yeah, you don't get to enjoy life and experiences as you. You have to automatically look at it from a white woman's perspective. How does a black man on the street look at, okay, now this younger person, or you're constantly having to look at yourself through their filter, and you automatically see yourself as the worst thing that can come into their purview. And how do you diminish yourself? How do you avoid it? Do you across the street, do you lay back? Do you turn the lights on? Do you turn your music down? Do you take your tinted windows down? You're constantly demoting yourself to make other people more comfortable.
Yeah, it happens so often. It happens so often that I completely forgot that literally 3 days ago, Marla and I were on our 5-mile walk, and we passed a white lady who had an umbrella to keep her for protection from the sun. Marla walks past her, and no reaction. I literally walked past her, had my mask on to make sure that I'm, not going to be a viral threat to her. She literally screamed.
Wow.
And I literally looked at Marla, and as I kept walking, I took my mask off, and I said, "Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you, but you should be ashamed of yourself." And we just kept walking. This was after everything that we've been witnessing for the past a little over a week.
And let me interject right here, because Mark Ritter is actually expressing how he feels, trying to relate to all of what you guys go through and what we go through. So he says, the Black experience is so far removed from my life of privilege. It is difficult for me to wrap my head around what it must be like. I understand on some level, but I can never actually know it, live it, or experience it. And he's right. I mean, he's never, ever going to be Black. And we're never, ever going to be white. And it's not, I don't think that's the problem. I don't think we need to be each other. I think we need to respect each other. But, I think what I've always said to be true, that we forget how we came here. And we came here under duress. We came here under force. We came here as the guilt of many and the embarrassment of many, because some of the words you guys are even using now is being embarrassed now. It's almost like you can never be just a human. But we came here under duress, and then we have been fighting ever since to try to find some measure of humanness. And I think it hurts my heart to hear, but I know it to be true. And every time we see someone die at the hands of someone else who hates us because of our color, you're reminded. You might be in your house and you remember, you forget you're Black, but then you go on the streets and then you remember, because like you said, Dave, that somebody just screams at you because of the color of your skin, or like you said, Claude, never seen one before. Those things are unfathomable to think. As I never would say that to a white person. I would never say that to an Indian person or a Spanish person. I used to live in a neighborhood that was almost all Spanish. I was a minority among the minorities. But I would dare come up to a Spanish person and say, "Don't speak Spanish because of who you are."
It would never cross our minds to impose our entitlement on anybody else like that. It would never cross our minds.
Why don't we let KD share some of his experiences as well?
Yeah, and I was going to ask him a question in regards to that. Being one of the youngest ones, Christian. I mean, we're all kind of in this middle age where we're, coming from the civil rights on to now, but you're younger than most. So do you have a sense or feeling that your generation is making changes, or is it just more of the same for you?
Let me start by saying I honor the fact that my brothers that surround me have experienced a lot more than I have. The fear is real because of their experience. It's like getting married to somebody and you're wondering why you react like that every time such and such. You don't know their history. You're not just marrying that person, you're marrying the history, their family. You don't know the makeup of how they were born, their family orient, the core values that were. So there's a reason for the reaction, even if you don't understand it. Now, what a smart husband would do if he loves his wife is to try to understand how to relate to her in the middle of all that stuff that he doesn't understand, to get answers, to ask questions, to have conversations, to be empathetic, to find out and to humble himself to say, you know what, I don't know why you react like this every time I go in your purse, but let's talk about this. Is there something let's just try to understand. Many times we're so right in our own eyes that we don't even care to think why a person would think this way. Why do you guys always why it's always got to be, you know, the white man and the such and such and such? We're all just in this together. Pause. Let's go back to the very beginning of this country. How did this, why are we where we are? We're the Native Americans. What happened to them when other people came here? On the way here, they stopped in Africa and they stopped in all these other kind of places and took us from our homes. And I'm coming to, I got a couple of different points. They took us from our homes, from our families. Imagine that being how you get here. Imagine that being the root of how you got to this nation to begin with. So you didn't even come over here on your own. So then after that, you get here and we're in the name of religious freedom and all this other kind of stuff. We were enslaved and all this other kinds of, you don't understand how deep this thing goes, which is why you can look at it and say, I don't know why you guys are so upset. You guys make millions of dollars playing football.
Yeah.
You don't care to know. You don't care to know. Well, you guys can get the same bank loans, and if you want to, you should pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. And this is, you know, the land of the free and the home of the brave. Okay. Ask yourself, to have the conversation, be willing to have the conversation and actually go back and look from the very beginning. You can't, it's like somebody trying to mop the floor, but they never stop the faucet from running. A lot of these efforts of it's like there's a leak in the under the sink in the pipe. Nobody's addressing the leak, but everybody's just, okay, everybody get a mop. Somebody is finally saying, okay, there's a leak here somewhere because this water keeps happening. Yeah. This keeps happening. We got to look deeper than where we've been looking. And so now finally with the murder of the execution of George Floyd, finally some people are saying, okay, where's the leak? And I'm happy about that. I'm happy about that. It's not enough to just black out social media. It's not enough to just have the conversations. It's not enough. We have got to go and get some John Brown, Mighty Putty or whatever it is to fix the leaks. And I'm thanking God that these conversations are finally happening. I wanted to, yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Katie. Let you finish up.
I started off by saying I really appreciate and value my brothers that surround me, you guys, because my experience is not like yours. I did not grow up in a place where I could look back and say that that I was openly discriminated against to my knowledge. I've been stopped by the police before I got stopped by the police, before I even started driving good. My parents told us, because they knew if Christian's gonna get stopped, it's because he's gonna be speeding. So one of the things that my dad taught me was when you get stopped, because you will get stopped, maybe he knew that I was going to get stopped because I was Black, but he didn't focus on that. He's like, if you get stopped or whatever, you say to the officer, you know, roll your window down before he even gets to the car. Have your license in your hand, have your registration in your hand. Turn your music off. Roll your windows down and just sit and wait for him. And when he approaches you, speak to him like you speak to me. I apologize for, hi, officer, I apologize for speeding in your jurisdiction. That's the first thing you say. Officer, I apologize for speeding in your jurisdiction. I had no idea that most Black people my age didn't speak that way. So when I would get stopped and I would hit him with that line, it would be a difference than what I do. Like we're not leading with that. The Bible says, okay, before I even say what the Bible says, let me go back and say this. I am a Christian. That's just not my name. That's who I am. This is how I orient my life. I align my life with this word. I don't align myself with the NAACP as the call of my life. I don't align myself with the Black Power and all this other kind of stuff. I align myself with God's word. That's number one. That's the foundation of who I am. The Bible says in Proverbs chapter 16, verse 7, when a man's ways please God, God causes even his enemies to be at peace with him. I think we have to start taking into consideration what God's word has to say about all this. There's another, and so I got one more point after I say this point. If I live my life as an individual in a way that pleases God and I'm honorable to people, that does not mean that I'm not going to get beat over the head just because of the color of my skin. But that's God's to judge. The Bible says, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, and I shall repay. That's God's to judge. I'm not going to, F the police and all this other kind of stuff just because, no, that's that because these are, the Bible says, again, they're ministers of God's judgment and justice on this earth. Even if they're whack, That's not mine to, I can't control them. I can control how I respond to it, but I can't control them. I think the marches are so important. The voting is so important. There's a lot of people that's marching and all this other kind of stuff. You ain't even registered to vote yet. You blacking out social media, but you haven't even registered to vote. You got people in that are sliding. And how do you think this happens? The Bible says, when the righteous rule, the people rejoice. When the wicked rule, the people groan. There's groaning in America. What does that tell you? The wicked are ruling this nation. I hate to say and admit on Facebook Live and to anybody, it's just in my life, that I don't trust the president of the United States. I don't trust the agenda that he and everybody, all these other people are pushing. I don't like it. I don't like how it feels. If they start shooting, they start looting, we start shooting. You are the leader of not just white people, of Americans. This is the nation that you run. So I feel that I can't trust him, but that's okay. Because again, the Bible says that trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not into your own understanding. I can't go about this in a way that appeases my flesh. Do I want to punch somebody? Absolutely. Do I want to take some bricks that are laid out however they got there? I left my bricks at home. Oh, lo and behold, there's a stack of bricks right here in front of them all. Yes. No. Do I want to take some bricks? Yeah, I want to get angry. I want to cry. I want to scream, on all this other kind of stuff. But I have to trust in the Lord with all my heart and lean not to my own understanding. When I'm raising my 10-year-old son, I'm not raising him to be fearful of the white man. I'm raising him to make sure that your ways please God. Because when the Bible says, if your ways please God, that even your enemies, he didn't say you wouldn't have enemies, but even those would be at peace with you. If you get, I would rather you get arrested for something that you did or didn't do. And I got so many thoughts in my brain.
Hey, Christian, so I'm gonna throw a cog in the wheel for you a little bit, because I do think, as we all are Christians, that is an important part to bring up. But there are a lot of people who are Christians who follow Trump, and Trump is trying to, held up the Bible as a, upside down, but but he holds it up as a sword in his favor. And so I'm just going to ask the question, if someone to ask you, well, Trump believes in Christ, and is that enough? What would you say to someone like that?
I would say that you will know them by their fruit.
Mm.
You'll know them by their fruit. I don't care what tree is outside my yard. I can call it apple tree all day long, but if it produces oranges, it's an orange tree. If the fruit is bad, if the fruit is not consistent with the teachings of Christ and that Bible that you hold up, you don't even know it's not 2 Corinthians.
Not everybody.
I apologize. That was a little that was a little far. But I know Joey has his hand up. But listen, you know them by their fruit. You can say all day, me standing in a car in a garage doesn't make me a car. You holding a Bible doesn't make you a Christian. It's the fruit that you bear. And if the fruit that you bear is of anger and hatred and all of these things that are inconsistent with the teachings that are in that Bible that you're holding up, then what are you saying that you are? The problem is we the blind ones. I don't care how many of my friends, I have very good friends that are evangelicals that stand and we're shoulder to shoulder with the president of the United States, all this other kind of stuff or whatever. Where is the fruit? And first of all, where's the fruit? And if there is none, then what's in it for you?
Come on.
Agreed. I completely agree.
Joey, what were you saying?
There are 3 things as I read throughout the scriptures that it seemed like if there's anything that can get under God's skin, if you could say that, it would be this: the widows, the fatherless, the stranger. If you love me, take care of these 3. You see these throughout all scripture. And it's not just, hey, don't make yourself a problem. Abide by the laws, abide by, so that everybody can live in peace. But he says in Jeremiah 22:3, this is what the Lord says: execute judgment and righteousness and deliver the spoiled out of the hand of the oppressor. Don't do wrong. Don't do violence to the stranger, the fatherless, nor the widow. Now, whose blood is innocently shed. So here's what I gain here's one of the things I gain as I'm watching all this stuff. The one thing it seems like is needed so much is that people really don't know what it's like to have this skin. They don't know. So they don't have a concept. They really don't. Unless you're treated, unless you're discriminated in some way, you just don't know. And I'll give you that. You just don't know what it feels like to me. So one thing, there has to be listening. There has to be dialogue. But number two, it causes me to feel like, and this is my confession, as an African American, I know what my history has been. I know the oppression that has been going on with me. I know my problem. I know my challenge that I have to deal with, that I've always had to deal with. What I should have done was, when I saw Native Americans being treated the way they were treated, I should have joined them in their march.
Yes.
I should, when I saw Mexicans and people up and back with their children in cages, I should have been in front of those cages.
Yes.
Now, I was not, and it wasn't because I didn't see my daughter in it. I could barely watch what was going on because I have two daughters and one small daughter, and I cannot bear to think what it would be like if they were in this situation. I should have been in front of that cage screaming for them to be released, because I know what it's like to be a child, and it's unthinkable how I could carry myself if I was separated from my child and they were kept in a cage. That should have been my fight. They're not African American, but they were oppressed. The kids were unguarded. I saw what was going on, and I should have listened to that story, and I should have acted. That's what do righteous, execute judgment actually means. That means I got to fight for them like they're my children, because I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like to be discriminated against. That horror, I could not watch that horror, but I need to open my eyes and see it.
Let me ask you this, Joey.
Now I'm in the situation.
Let me ask you this, Joey, because we all completely agree with that point. Same with you, KD. But part of the reason why I know for me that I didn't join in some of those other protests is because I actually had fallen into a state of hopelessness. We've seen this so many times. And by the time we elected Trump as the president of the United States, it was almost like a seal that not only is it hopeless, but it's actually going to get worse. And there's almost nothing you can do about it. I mean, we've seen him actually put bayonets, ordered the National Guard to put bayonets on their rifles, on their guns, for crowd control. And there's only one reason to have a bayonet on your weapon, and that is to stab somebody with it. So
for me,
again,
and I answer that by saying, hope thou in the Lord, dude. It is nasty out here. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. Before you, yeah,
I was going to share that you guys are actually affecting people now, and I wanted to just let you know, because as I'm hearing your voices and I'm hearing your pain, I want you to know you're helping some people. And some people are saying, one guy says, you guys made a huge step forward towards charging the situation, not only in US, but in Russia and in other countries suffering. God bless you. And another person says, I wouldn't imagine that subject was really that deep in America regarding treatment towards Black citizens. So not only in America, but outside of America, you're helping people see the depth. Because I know, sort of like we can become news stories, and then people don't see the depth of the pain. And I think now people are seeing the depth of the pain you guys are expressing, that all of America is feeling. So I just wanted you to know that this is a good thing.
There was another lady in the thread as well, Kenan, who said, obviously she was a white woman. She said, what can we as white people do about it? What is it that we can actually do? And one of the things that really stands out to me is literally when, because my daughter said this in one of her posts day before yesterday, when you're alone with your white friends and someone says something off color, what are you going to do? Are you going to actually call them out? Or are you just going to let it slide and, man, you know, get home and say, man, that was kind of whack for Jim to say that, or whoever to say that, but you didn't say anything publicly at the time. That goes back to what Joy was saying. When you see injustice, when you see wrong, it is your duty to speak up. It is our duty, not only as Black men, but as Christians, as Christian was saying, to speak up. We do not support injustice in any way.
Bro, and that's my problem with a lot of my white pastor friends. Because you're reading the same Bible that I'm reading, and you're seeing the same thing and you can't talk about the children of Israel without talking about how they were enslaved in Egypt and how God delivered them. But suddenly you're silent in the middle of all of this.
There's a lot of silence right now.
And certain celebrities and stuff like that we look to and we support. And they have our money. They've been our money, our ratings. We watch their shows every day religiously, and you have your mouth shut.
Yeah,
because it's controlled by a white. It's controlled by another dollar.
The non-racist time is over. Everybody, the people are asking what can they do? You have to become an anti-racist. You have to speak out and don't let anybody be comfortable being unjust around you. That's what you can do.
Yeah.
One of the things that I saw while passing through Atlanta's airport was, if you see a situation that looks like it's child slavery, if you see signs that it say something.
Better to get it wrong than stay silent.
Because what it means is, if you see something, it's awry, and and I don't say anything, then it's not just the person who inflicts the abuse that's happening, but all the people who saw it all the way down the line and said nothing, because, well, that's not my problem. And I say that having been guilty of that situation, when I saw other oppressed peoples, I said to myself, that's terrible. And I know what that feels like, but I got my own problems to fight. You're sitting here and you're hearing a situation from God where he's like, if you see that, don't just walk away and hope that it gets better. Don't just pass up the guy who's been beat up on the street and hope eventually, well, somebody will come by and they'll help him. It can't be me, but somebody will help him. I'm saying to you, execute righteousness on their behalf. Execute judgment. I'm giving you more of a responsibility. Execute judgment on their behalf. Yes, I know it's not your problem, but you are brothers and sisters.
And that's the issue, Joey. That is the issue. You have to recognize that we're all one family. We sing about that family of love. That's what the song is about. When you see injustice, you have to now reframe it. Educate yourself, teach yourself, get in the habit of saying that is my sister, that is my brother, that is my mother. And until we get there, until you can say to yourself, like my daughter said, until as a white person, you can say, I would gladly trade places with another Black person. We're not there yet. And until we get there, we have work to do.
Can I bring this conversation a little bit full circle? Because one of the things that you guys are known for is the music or the song Spread Love. And there's nothing more that we need right now. And Christian kind of alluded to that, you know, God's love and love towards one another is really what's going to make the change. And even with Joy saying that, you know, as we reach out and protect other people in their situation, that's showing love. So I want to ask each one of you if you could expound on this point. When you see hatred, how do you show love? You want to start, Claude?
Wow. When I see hatred, how do I show love? That's the question. You know, as transparent as I can be, I'm one of those people that I'm always trying to understand why there is hatred coming from you. That's almost my first thing, because I want to diffuse the situation, but not just diffuse it. I want you to understand that you don't have to be afraid of me. You don't have to hate me, but I want to know why. I always want to know why, because even if I can't understand at all why it is real for you, you know? So I will listen. And what I try to do is I try to get you to listen to me at the same time, so that at least when we leave the conversation, I don't have to know that you've changed your mind or your heart or whatever in that conversation. It may happen the next day. It may happen 5 years from now. It may never happen. But all I can do is just spread whatever love I can. And that's not a cliche. I have to keep the love going, because hate against hate will not change anything. And I know there are people on the thread and people in this world who are like, the time for being nice and loving and whatnot is over. No, I don't believe that. I don't. And we may all end up being martyrs for it. But you know what? I will truly go down swinging in love than in any other kind of way. That's how I approach it.
Let me answer that too. I have absolutely no idea. I have absolutely no idea. I had a situation, and I had a situation where there was somebody that I actually hated. This particular, I mean, the story is not, I mean, my father ended up having an affair with this lady, and it, you know, tore my family apart. And I had no idea that I had pure hatred in my heart for her. And so when we're talking about how do we, you know, when we see it in others, how do I respond when I see it in me, man? I hated this lady. And it wasn't until the Holy Spirit confronted me about that in my own heart, that it something changed in me. And he challenged me. And he was like, if you hate her, if you don't forgive her, then I can't forgive you. That's what he said to me. If you don't forgive her, I can't forgive you. And the thing is, you forgave your dad. You showed love to him. Well, that's because you desired relationship with him. I desired relationship with my dad, so I let him off the hook. But that offense didn't go nowhere. So I rolled his offense over on her, because I didn't want to have nothing to do with her. She can, like some people, she can kiss my monkey, you know, she could die in the street and it'd be my knee on her neck. I don't care. That's how I felt in my heart until God checked me. And I said to him, all right, what do you want me to do? And he told me to write her a letter. And that thing, oh my, I can't even tell you. I don't even know how I cried so much. And there were still tears to cry, because I said all that to say this. I had to get to the point where I asked, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? And I think that every person has to ask that question. Not what do you want them to do? What do you want us to do? No, what do you want me to do? If that means, and that means you put yourself in a position to hear instructions for yourself individually. If that means for Vin's neighbor, hey, go outside and compliment him on the paint job on his fence. Get to the point.
Prepared to paint his fence.
Be prepared. But so when you ask me that question, how do I respond? When I see, how do I show love? When I have no idea. Save literally the Spirit of God that gives us the heart to ask, what do you want me to do?
I think you said it.
Start asking that question.
Yeah.
I think you said it. You said forgiveness. I think you said it. And when you said, I
take it a step further though, Kenan, because I know for a fact I can't do it. So what I've had to start learning how to do is, when I face a situation like that, I know who I am. I can feel the ire just rising, just coming up from the depth of my soul. I immediately have to pray and ask God to take over. Just use me like a puppet, because I can't do it. I cannot. I can either ignore it or address it, one or the other. And so because of that, and another thing that Claude was saying, you know, when people say, go back and say, oh, the time for passivity is over. The issue is either love is real and either it works or it doesn't. You cannot say that the love approach is no longer working, so I'm going to give that up. What that means is that you don't believe that it works anyway. You have to have faith that it's going to work. And a lot of times I've had to pray this prayer myself. I'm having a hard time believing this at this moment. You have to take over. And I promise you he will. I promise you he will.
And that it takes believing that love will make a difference. And then you can act on love, but you have to believe it first. A lot of people are losing faith in that right now. They're thinking that particular way is weak, and that particular way is just going to get me in deeper trouble. But if I believe in my heart that God is love and love will win, then I can act on that. And that is what we must do. And at every instance we come against is you must act in love. For my neighbor who I know is an avid Trump supporter, and I still have to be kind to him. I still have to look out for him, and in doing that, I'm showing this is what God's love is all about. It supersedes all the stuff that you don't believe in and the stuff that is just wrong for you. It supersedes all of that. It supersedes all your misconceptions that you've had all your entire life. I'm showing you something different now. The police, you have to engage them in love. Imagine that. It's so hard. It's so hard with the very people that you know are out to hurt you.
Yeah, and you have to keep on doing it. It doesn't mean that they're going to change tomorrow. It doesn't. They may not change in your lifetime. That doesn't mean you stop. Unless, like has been said from a couple of you guys, perhaps you don't believe it works.
That's what Nelson Mandela did.
Yeah, that's true. Alvin? Alvin, did you want to say anything?
You're on mute.
He's on mute?
Okay. So I was going to say, I'm kind of like how Dave is wired. For me, my natural personality is that I am generally a gregarious guy. Generally, I like to be liked. I like people to like me, and I generally give people the benefit of the doubt. However, when you cross me, or I feel like you're playing me like I'm a fool, or I'm stupid, or you're disrespecting me, there's a dark thing that crosses for me, and it's hard to come back from that. It's very hard for me to come back from that. I literally am the guy that will sit. The guys know I'll sit there thinking of what I should have said to you for 2 nights, and then on the third night I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna cut you deep. But I don't automatically go there. I love, and then if I get smack. So I don't know how to come back from that. I have to lean on my Christianity or the faith and the belief that this thing actually works. But I've seen pictures of Malcolm X in a casket, and I've seen pictures of Martin Luther King in a casket. It doesn't matter which way you go. It doesn't matter if you listen to instructions. It doesn't matter if you don't. I don't know if all the people on the 9/11 planes, if all of them were obedient hostages or they fought like hell. They're all dead. And that's what I'm tripping off of right now. This road is doomed. I'm like, man, all of this turn another cheek stuff, people are dead. The people who are fighting in the streets, they're dead. And that's what's really making me feel like stuff is hopeless. It's like, well, shoot, it doesn't matter. You might as well go down swinging. So I am not the one to give Christ object lessons on this stuff. I just literally have to I don't know.
You know what's amazing though? Let me interject because I'm watching comments and stuff. The really cool thing about being in Take 6 for 30 plus years is that we are transparent. And guys are talking about, I don't know what to do. I'm hopeless at times. I will cut you deep, blah, 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 blah. So we hold each other accountable very much so for being able to get through stuff. And I think what I'm seeing on these comments is there's a lot of people who are like, I need to hear your stories. And I do feel hope. And I am being educated. I think all of this stuff makes a difference. But there are many different ways for that to happen. You know, there isn't one way to make you understand me. There isn't one way for you to do right. You know, there's strength in numbers. If you don't know what to do, ask somebody who seems to be doing the right thing. You know,
Sit
if
in
you
the
have
council
a
of the
friend,
godly.
absolutely. And I think that going back to Christian's point, you can't know love if you don't know love.
Right. Come on, Chris. Come on, Claude.
You
Amen.
know, and we can talk all we want about any of us thinking we know. Who we are shows up under duress. Each one of us. Every day I go outside, I know I'm gonna have road rage, and I have to pray before I go out there. I'm just that dude. I will cuss you out if you don't drive right. You know, and you guys on the road, I can also be that guy. I can be really nice and blah 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 blah. But I'm also like Alvin in the sense that, really, you said that to me, I'm gonna let you know. And usually I do it just one-on-one. I won't do it on stage.
Let me rap to you for a second.
So let me share my piece then. And this is something that I really need people to think about. I think it's in Colossians, but it says that Christ is the hope of glory, and that mystery is Christ in you, the hope of glory. Now, as Christians, we miss this, because when the saying came out, what would Jesus do? It almost seemed to imply that I need to act like what I think he would do.
Get your phone out, Christian.
I need to try to pretend, not even pretend. I got to get the best thought of what I think Jesus might do. And then I got to do that. It's deeper than that. I will admit, you can push my buttons and I will explode. I'm just like every other guy that's spoken. When it gets bad enough, when I see enough kids abused, when I see enough people dying in the streets, when I see enough widows being run over, when I see injustice, you can push my buttons and I will lose it. The one thing I know is I promise you I'm going to lose it. The gospel is not me going out of my front door, trying my best to pretend to be, or best I can be, what I think Jesus might do. He has to be in me, under my skin, speaking words out my mouth. Because I can't trust myself to say the right thing. If somebody else rolls up on me again and says the wrong thing at this time, I can't trust what I'm going to say. What I can tell you is, in 30 years of being in Take 6, I begin to realize I'm not in a good place. Jesus, you have to be yourself inside me, under my skin. And here's what happens. Somehow, when somebody says something that is inflammatory, and I'm able to stay in composure and I know it didn't come from me. It had to have come from an outside source. So that's both to hold my peace, and then it's also there's a prompting inside that says, now is the time to speak. Now is the time to take action. And that didn't come from me either. In both scenarios, take on the cause of this person who's being oppressed. That didn't come from me either. I'm not going to take credit for it. When he is in control, he's living his real life under your skin, and he'll show you what to do in that situation that we can't tell you. Because what you've heard is, I can't tell you what I'll do, because I don't know what's going to happen. In that moment, he will be himself inside me and show me what to do, whether that is to hold my peace, or is that to speak out and take action. And when I've seen people, our brothers and sisters, white, black, other ethnicities, joining this whole situation, my heart floods because he has gotten into them, whether they seem to believe in him or not, and it pushed them to the front to be beside me as I'm walking. And that's where you see his life. When Kanye says Jesus walks, that's where you see him walking. That's how you see him standing. And I can't tell you how that happens.
And on top of that, one of the main ways, and one of the things I appreciate most about the way God works is, if it wasn't for this pandemic, if it wasn't for COVID-19, again, I repeat, most of these people that are out protesting would not be able to do so. But suddenly he takes something that should have been used to destroy us and uses it for good and fixes the whole thing. And that's if we maintain our belief that love works.
Yeah, and I want to read a comment that someone said, and I think it's really important in the name of love. She says, Marion Bickham, I think, says, you can't know love if you don't know love. You can't know love if you don't know love. What she really means is you can't give it if you don't know it within yourself. So to your points, I mean, I think it is very important to show God's love, but you have to know how to love yourself. God says, love others as you love yourself. So that means You have to know how to love yourself. So, because a lot of people don't have the foundations of love. They don't have what they need to show love to other people. So the first thing is anger. I mean, I used to work in a place where, 9-year-olds are in cuffs. You're not. So you know what? You started this world in the wrong way. You started rough. So you don't even have the foundation of love. So that's one thing I will say. But I wanted to summarize some of what I thought I've been hearing from you guys, because I think it's important for those who know and those who don't, because sometimes the psychology of what we're going through is important. And some of the words that I heard you all say, and I wrote them down, and then some of the words of healing that you said, I think are important. So I'm going to go first. Some of the things you said: depressing, traumatizing, sadness, hopelessness, feeling violated, feeling overwhelmed, embarrassed, and feeling guilty until proven innocent, basically. PTSD, and feeling stressed, doomed, Alvin said. So there's so many things that you guys walk around with feeling, as we walk around with feeling as African Americans. I don't want to make it sound like it's just a male problem, it's a Black problem. But the things that you guys brought forward are the things that I want to also highlight, because those are the things of healing: understanding, listening, teaching, forgiveness, prayer, faith, love, and believing. So I think that we have a lot of things we got to work through, but I think that list actually helps us to get through.
But let me add to that. Also, there are other actions you can take. 43% of eligible voters did not vote in 2016. Whether it's because they didn't feel like it was going to make a difference, or maybe my vote doesn't really count, I'm just one person. 100 million people who were eligible to vote decided it wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
Everybody, you have a voice. It is your voice. It is one voice, but it absolutely makes a difference.
Yeah. If you don't stand up, you're sitting down.
All of the protests, they're doing what they need to do, but if they don't culminate in finally making your voice heard when it's time for your voice to be heard, then the whole thing is defeated.
I think that's where, sadly, Kaepernick lost a lot of his authority too, because as amazing as his protest was, he didn't actually vote when it was time to vote. And a lot of his authority was ebbed away right there.
Credibility. And it's not just the presidential elections. We're talking about voting on every level. Your judges, the people that are your governors in your state, the people that are making the laws for your state. It's not just the presidential election. It's all of them. We have to be active and let, like you said, let our voice be heard. If that's the way that is your power. It's not taking up a brick and throwing it through a window. it's making your voice heard at the polls. And that's one of the things that we have to do.
Have to do.
And
What
we
we're
have to
doing right
remember
here-
our
what we're
ancestors
doing-
died.
What we're doing right here is we're sharing from our hearts what is on our heart. But what we need to keep in front of everyone's, at the forefront of everyone's mind, not only vote, but literally keep the pressure on right into your congressperson, right into your representative, right into your senator, because the charges have just been put forth. The trial hasn't happened. The election hasn't happened yet, and we're still a ways away from all those things now. Continue to engage, and we will continue to be there with you from this point forward. Like Joey said, we will have to defend the helpless. We will have to take up the cause of justice for those that can no longer or find themselves unable to do it for themselves. So let's keep this thing pressed to the metal.
Yeah, this is amazing.
Agreed.
We're getting some amazing comments over here. And we've been on for an hour and a half, and we could probably go on for another hour and a half. I'm like,
But it shows you how much
you
it's
want to
needed.
ask us?
I'm sorry?
Is there something else you wanted to ask us? Because we should probably wrap it up just so that,
No,
you
yeah,
know.
no, I just, that's why I wanted to wrap with the things that you guys were feeling, and then the things that you said for healing, because I think, and I hope you guys will go back and read the comments, because sometimes you guys forget that people love celebrities and they see you in a light that you might take for granted, but they want to hear from you. They want to know that you have the power. You've been given the power through your skills and your gifts from God, but that you're not just using them for your own healing, but you're also using them for their healing, and that you're using them, your power, for good, to serve the community. And as you know, as a Christian, you guys, we all know we are supposed to help ourselves, but also supposed to help our neighbor. And I think, you know, this is just hopefully the starting of a long conversation. It shouldn't be this one time, you know, and I think we are.
I was going to say that we should probably do this as just a roundtable, because Take Six does this in the dressing room all the time. We talk about all manner of things. So I think this is a good opportunity for us to think about doing this once a week. You know, we do the Spread Love 2020 challenge on Tuesday evenings. We can figure out another time to do this throughout every week and invite other people to be part of it.
Bring some fans
Yes.
on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or friends.
And celebrities.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. A
But
lot of
I
people
want to say
here.
thank you guys. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you,
No,
Kenny.
thank
You did a
so
great
much,
job.
because you don't understand. I mean, like I said, I'm a mom. I'm a Black mom. I have 2 boys. And sometimes I just like knowing that we're standing together as people, and that they see strong Black men being strong. And sometimes I just think that's enough for some people to see 6 Black men stand up and say, we're tired, just like you. We don't want to take it just like you, but we're going to do it the right way, but we're not going to sit down and take it anymore. So
Right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And everybody, thank you so much for joining us. This is amazing.
Have a good one.
Thank you, Kenan.
All right.